Welcome to Infinite Think, your resource for success and happiness. I'm one of your hosts, Kenya Cook.
And I'm Richard Roundtree. I just want to thank all you guys out there for following us on YouTube and Instagram at Infinite Think. It means a lot to both Kenya and I that you are following us, but this is information that we're just sharing because it comes from the bottom of our heart, and hopefully you do the same, like it and share it because it means a lot.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And Richard, I've been kind of checking out your posting for the last couple of weeks, and I noticed that your classes are starting to pick up. How are those going?
Oh, it's going really good. I feel really blessed just to be teaching, and I think the biggest lesson that I'm taking away is that the teacher is also the student. So I'm actually learning a lot from my students. I think that's how you really grow as a teacher, as a person in general. It's just from learning and from listening and to understanding, like what we talked about last week.
Yeah, that was a great time that we had with Kenyatta Griggs talking about seeking first to understand, then to be understood was phenomenal. I think that was a great piece to kind of set the tone for going into situations, trying to understand, trying to find a place or space or an input where you can bring value versus going into it, getting something out of it, or what you can take from that situation. What were some of
Yes,
your takeaways, Richard?
I think that's a great takeaway. And also you talked about being selfish. I felt at first we were going a little bit off onto a tangent, but it's important to be selfish, to be truthful with yourself, and to take the time for yourself, so you can be truthful with yourself first before you can understand where others are coming from. So, but that was a good point that he made, is that self care, that self love. Take the time just to regroup and to center and to balance yourself so you can be able to understand what other people are saying and where they're coming from.
So true, so true. Well, this week we're going to discuss synergy. Dr. Stephen Covey said that synergy is not the same as compromise. In compromise, 1 plus 1 equals 2, but in synergy, 1 plus 1 equals 3. The power of working together can create something greater if we learn to focus together. Our guest today is a Canadian independent filmmaker, director, producer, and screenwriter. He is a graduate of the New York Film Academy in New York, a class of 2009. He has worked in film in various roles, and he has a movie out right now that is amazing on Netflix
Amazing.
called Never Heard. Please welcome Josh Weber to Infinite Thing.
Welcome. Yeah. Woo!
Thank you for the incredible introduction, gentlemen. I'm really happy to be here with you and inspired by your energy.
Yeah, we are so happy that you're here with us.
Cool,
Oh,
good.
yes.
Same page.
Yep. So today's discussion, we want to look at problem solving. We want to talk a little bit about synergy, and we want to get an understanding, Josh, from you. How do you use synergy and the power of working in teams together to reach your goals? Now, our format for the show is we generally just ask three major questions, and there's going to be a host of sub questions. But the first major question we want to go into, and I'll ask you, is how important is synergy in planning your projects?
I think synergy is very important. I think everyone needs to be on the same page. I think there's a sense of overall energy in the room, or as far as general direction in building a project, and everyone needs to feel the same level of interest, the same level of inspiration. So I think synergy is everything, and synergy while on set, as far as everyone working together hand in hand, is how creative arts really come together.
Wow. Have you had any challenges when trying to build synergy with certain people? Like, what kind of challenges have you had, and how did you overcome them?
I mean, I've had endless challenges in my process of filmmaking, and I would say in relation to synergy is I kind of live by a motto in regards to filmmaking where positivity is everything, and I would much rather have people around me with the right attitudes and the right positive mind state and nature versus maybe a more qualified individual with the terrible attitude or less of a know-how or knowledge. And in the past, there's been times where I've put together a crew of people and we've started on a project and one negative mind state individual or one negative personality can bleed over, and instantly you can find that the entire crew becomes negative just from one individual being negative. So there are times, and there was even times with Never Heard where we put together a crew of people that I had either worked with before or we vetted them prior, and there was like a few people as part of the crew that it's not to say that they're negative individuals. It's not to say that they're generally bad attitude individuals. Something was going on in their lives during that time period that reflected where they were giving off this bad energy, where they were giving off this negative vibe, and I literally watched it bleed over to several other people, and I had to pull those people aside and say, look, we've worked together before. I know this is not you, so I know there's some. And one guy leveled with me. He said, look, I just had a baby. I'm stressed out. Me and my wife were fighting. Like, I'm sorry, but I get it. But at the end of the day, you got to leave that stuff behind you, and you can't let everyone has a life, everyone has struggles, everyone has things going on, but positivity and a good attitude, especially in the workplace or just when trying to find synergy with people, is very important. Like that's how people can grow. That's how things blossom. So that was a situation specifically on Never Heard where I had to kind of let some people go and bring in some other people to fill the roles.
Yeah. I have a sub question. So you talked about vetting the people that you hire or that's part of your team. Could you just briefly describe your vetting process? Is it more of an intuitive thing, or do you have like a set amount of questions and questionnaires that you go through to vet people?
So I just, in accordance with vetting somebody, I like to meet them in person. Again, to try to pick up on their energy and pick up on their vibe and their temperament. Because you can talk to somebody on the phone, but unless you kind of like look them in the eyes and really feel them out, you don't really know who they are. And it's important because you can't keep an eye on everyone, so you have to know generally where everyone is from a mental state standpoint. I've had my trials and errors with certain productions where I didn't do that, and I blindly hired somebody through an email process or something. They shared. Sorry about that. I was just getting a call. And so that's a big factor. Also, I find there is a sense of accountability when somebody comes through somebody that you know. If it's like a friend of a friend or a friend of somebody who has worked with somebody that there's a sense of accountability in regards to the project or the people that are working together, where it doesn't just live and end with one job or one position, but it's almost like a bigger understanding. So that's I guess an aspect to trying to vet somebody to work with them. I think it's important. You want longevity. You want, like, I'm constantly looking for people that I want to work with on every single production, and I'm constantly taking mental notes. Like, okay, how did that work out? Well, okay, but the biggest thing for me is if somebody got a great attitude, that's like the biggest factor. It's like, that guy was cool. He showed up. He was happy. He tried his hardest, and that's all we can ask for.
That's super important. I think about that, Josh, having somebody with the right attitude showing up. Now, you said that you take mental notes, and I know that I heard somebody say earlier this week, Gary Vee is someone that said that you have like thousands of thoughts every hour. You're taking mental notes. How do you organize them or reference them so that you can help you in the future? Because I remember certain things about people and then I forget.
Exactly. So there's a few tricks that I have. So sometimes I'll open up. Now, thankfully, my general memory is really, really good right now. So like I can remember things and pull them back up. But sometimes I'll write it down in a notebook or something, particular notes. And sometimes if I learn something about somebody particularly as a trait of theirs, um, I may make a note next to their name in my phone so that when they call me, so that I'm not taken off, because you can't always, maybe like you said, you know something and then you forget it, and 6 months later you talk to the person and it's not the same, and you forget those things. So I sometimes I put a mental note, next to their name, so when they call me, I remember. Okay, remember this about them. Like for instance, like John the liar or something like that. So, in this, I know he's lying. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. That's all.
That helps.
John the liar. I know John that can often lie.
Yeah.
So in your process, so
Mhm.
now you've vetted your team, you're creating mental notes. How important, or what is it that you're looking for once you create that synergy, you got that team, day to day, what are you looking for in people so that you know you're still tracking towards your goal? What are some things you're looking at?
I'm looking for problem solvers. I'm
Okay.
looking for people
Mm,
who can take
okay.
problems that I have to normally figure out a solution for, and stop and navigate. And I'm looking for those who can think on their own and can add to, not only positive attitude and good vibes a good thing, but you want to know somebody's efficient and they can kind of like, if something goes awry, that there's some other people who can kind of, it may not be their responsibility, but it's always beneficial if somebody knows how to solve a problem and put out a fire.
Putting out a fire. That's
Value.
that's. I think that. Go ahead. I think that's so deep what you were saying about how you want to have people who are problem solvers, because a lot of times, people don't have any ownership for their work. They just go into the office or they go into the set and like, I just do whatever the boss tells me to do. But to find individuals who take the responsibility, take the ownership of this project being their own project,
Yeah,
those seem like the ones that can be able to solve problems because they have the incentives to solve problems.
definitely, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
those
but
who just say free thinkers, and
mhm,
like I've never been, although I'm a director, I've never been much of a dictator. Like I don't like the
mhm,
idea of having to tell somebody little things and stuff. And I've really come
mhm,
from, I'm a humble individual. Like if something gets spilt on the floor, I'm not going to look at somebody and say, "Hey, go clean that up." My first instinct is get a rag and clean it up. So like I look for just again, yeah, just people who can think ahead and help, because it's one big train when you're working with people or you're in a synergy environment. It's like if everyone can constantly be looking towards the main direction and how the train can move in the smoothest, easiest fashion, you have the greatest machine.
Yeah.
mhm.
And it's fun. I think about even in my earlier career, that's how I kind of distinguish myself to be the person who would go pick up the trash. To be the person to say, hey, I noticed that everybody couldn't go get coffee, so I went and got the coffee for you because it was working on a project.
Right? Yeah, exactly. The proactive nature, I think, is very important in any regard. And something that somebody had said is, it doesn't matter what your job is, but if something's going wrong, you should, don't overlook it. Don't say, "Oh, cool. If I'm the grass cutter and there's a fire, I'm not putting the fire out because I'm not the fireman." It's this
Mhm.
here nor there. It's a fire. Let's figure out a way to solve it.
Mhm.
With
Well,
fire.
it seemed like you set the tone from being the top person, being the director. You're the top. I mean, you are still the captain of the ship. So you seem like you're setting the tone. What do you do with people that, they might be go-getters and they might be free thinkers, but they might be a little bit rogue? How do you deal with people that may be a little bit rogue and just kind of go off the script a little bit too much? Or you don't seem like you
So
have that problem at all.
Well, no. So I run into everything, and it's not rainbows and butterflies over here. It's
Yeah,
always
no.
whenever you're creating something, it's always like you're in the trenches. It's always like war in a sense or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But I would say, as long as the intentions are pure, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Like I think if somebody has gone rogue and they're like, "Oh, cool, I didn't." I was thinking ahead and I was trying to do this or that. As long as the reasoning behind their mental or the reasoning behind their thought process didn't have any ill intention, how could you be mad if they were looking to help you and to help the scenario, or maybe there's instances where and but you also have to keep in mind certain people with certain motivations, right? So, for instance, you want. I always like to know what somebody's end goal is, so that I know.
End goal.
So, for two reasons, right? Is one reason is because I want to inevitably help them get there. So I ask almost everyone I meet if they can close their eyes and wish for whatever they would become, what would that be? So that I can understand that, so that I can either help guide them in that position to realize their dreams or their goals, or help them in any regard. Like if I don't know you want to be a writer someday, I wouldn't know to try and find a way to help facilitate that. If I didn't know you wanted to be a producer, I wouldn't. It's better to know what people's end goal is, and then you can gather what their true intentions are when they do go rogue. Because some people will go rogue and it's with good intentions, that's focused towards the team and the synergy of their results. Or it may be, if you look closer and you understand them and where their mind state is, you might say, you say you went rogue for the team, but you went rogue for your own personal goals or thoughts, and in like a selfish regard. So intentions is very important, I think.
hmm And you seem like you have a good process of vetting people's intentions by kind of
I'm good with. I believe life is chapters, right? And
hmm
you go through different things and you live different lives, and you learn people and you learn yourself. And I think I've gotten to a place in my life where I've gone through several chapters in my own book, and I know how to
hmm
read people. I know how to read. Reasoning and why people do certain things, and my instincts are really strong. So I'm able to just feel out a room or a scenario really quickly, and I think that's why it really helps me as a director, because
hmm
being a director is all about finding the truth in a scenario, finding what's real, what's authentic, and I feel
Yeah.
like I have a strong radar for, is that real or is that an act? Is that real or is that my
Mm.
instincts tell me otherwise? So believing
Yeah.
in your instincts is important.
Yeah, that's important. I think you kind of that's I share that same sentiment. Life is but a stage, and everybody kind of have their own script in life, and you got to be able to understand what motivates them, what's their spine, what makes them tick, what's make them off, and not only on stage or on set, but off the set too. I think it's
That's right.
important. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Josh,
So
you
you,
just dropped a real gem that I don't want to run by too fast because I'm gonna make a meme out of it. You said you try to find the truth in every scene.
Yes.
And that resonated with me because I think about even in conversations with my fiance, if it's hostile, we getting angry with each other, I'm learning to step back and ask that question, what's really going on here? What's the real motivation? What's at the
That's
heart
right.
of it?
Yeah,
yeah.
So that
because
was
you'd be
big.
surprised. Maybe it's just she was mad about, you left a dish out, yesterday, and it's just deep down inside. You never know. It's true. What's the the underlining scenario of whatever's happening.
Because that would hurt synergy. That would stop it because there's something that hasn't been addressed that's bubbling up underneath that's affecting us moving forward. And if we don't uncover that, if we don't talk about it, it's going to hinder us. And possibly what I think is really bad, it'll end that relationship that could have gone forward.
Yeah. And also, I think as far as to touch back on synergy, I think it's so important in life, in relationships, in every aspect, is for people to be on the same page as far as being truthful with their thoughts and their emotions and what they want or where they are. You know, like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, we'll figure that out when we get there." I think it's important to know where you stand in life. It's not healthy for a relationship if you're constantly living in the unknown, because somebody in their mind may believe, oh, the unknown turns out to this, and the person who's on the other side of the relationship might be thinking something else entirely. So if you don't know where you stand, or you don't know, or it's not properly outlined how certain milestones or the process will be, it's left up to the imagination, and the imagination sometimes, with people can go quite awry.
Yeah. And we've seen that happen. We've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Richard, I'm looking at our time here, and I want to see if we can segue over to talk a little bit about the movie, if that's okay with Josh.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Whatever you would like.
Okay,
Let me start with this. Let me start with this. Amazing movie.
Amazing
We had
yeah.
And I don't say that as just hyping you up, or
No,
I mean,
it's
really,
real talk.
I jumped on Facebook. I was inboxing people. I was saying, look, guys, you have to see this movie. It's totally not what I thought it was going to be. Little Romeo and Master P was a surprise character in it, but Little Romeo and Carucci, I said, okay, here we go with a little hood movie. Not at all.
No,
yeah, there's a lot of heart in it, and I think it touches a lot. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you got such truthful performances out of these people. I mean, it was just amazing what you got from them. I mean, can you take us through your process there? How did you? Are you like a Stanley Kubrick type of person? I need to do like 100 takes, or you treat pretty much a one take type of guy? You let people kind of improv a little bit, or you let them.
I'm kind of like so I generally do a rough edit of all of my films. So I know during a scene what pieces of a performance I may use, and I absolutely don't like to do an accentuating amount of takes. Like I think that just it kills an energy of I think a body in motion stays in motion. A production that stays in motion continues in motion. And whenever you stop, the crew gets lazy. The energy in the room gets lazy, and there's something about that speed in motion of making a movie, not only because you have costs involved, but there's a sense of pressure. You're in a cooker, and you want to perform. And I think when people know that they're not going to have the opportunity to do 10, 15, 20 takes with you, and they know, hey, this guy's going to shoot me and he's going to keep it moving, they bring their A game. And also I find that, touching back on the edit aspect, is when I know that I've gotten the right performance on a certain point of the dialogue, I don't focus on that part anymore. I'll stay focused on the part of the dialogue that I think we still need to work on performance-wise, and I'll do that a second time instead. And I also I like to do line reads, like as far as, like how I mentioned, I use my own instincts on how something would be truthful, or feeling out the blocking for myself on how I would feel that the characters would react to certain things, and I try and instill those instincts with the actors, and I'll tell you, we got a phenomenal cast, and everyone came with a real professional mind state, and wanting to do the work and wanting to create a great film. So I think that all in line allowed us to get some really special material.
And you did.
Yeah,
You did.
yeah, yeah.
Now, you guys went
Another thing,
straight to net.
I'm big on. I said another thing I'm big on. Just to add to it is giving. I think it's important to give actors the freedom to believe in their own instincts and their own abilities. And I think at times, for one reason or another, actors get put into a box, and then they get tense and they're nervous, and they're being told, oh, the lighting guy says you can only walk 2 feet forward and 1 foot back, and no, here you have to say it like this. I'm a big fan of people not feeling married to the lines, not feeling like, oh, if you feel something, do it. Allow actors and individuals and instill them with a sense of power where they can feel almost within themselves the truth in a scenario.
That's awesome, because then in that moment, if they're identifying with their character, they may say something that they feel that their character would say in that moment.
Exactly. Yeah, and the comfort factor and them knowing that, like, hey, if you feel something, have the freedom to go do it, because if I don't like it, I'll tell you. If I do love it, then we'll use it. So like it's one big collaborative nature, and so I think giving the people the freedom to realize their own aspects to certain things is important and bleeds over to performance.
Wow. Now, when I saw that you have like several other movies in the pipeline that are coming down, but since Never Heard has come out, what is some of the feedback you've gotten about the movie?
Oh, I've gotten endless feedback. I mean, people have reached out and said that this movie made them want to reach out to their kids that they've lost touch with. Other people have reached out and said, I finally understand what my father was going through. I finally understand this. I cried all the way home. I've found God again now. I just endless positive feedback. I think we definitely did our jobs in creating a film that not only will be timeless, because I think this is the type of movie you can watch now, or you can watch 10 years from now, and the lessons and the overall storyline, it will still be relevant. Obviously we're progressing in society and we're progressing as individuals, but this stuff is always going to be relevant. There's always going to be a childless father. There's always going to be a man or woman who's wronged by the judicial system. It's just part of life. So like, I think this story and this film, even from like a visual standpoint, will stay relevant for a long time and ring true.
Yeah. You just said something that's very interesting. You talked about it not as like a black or white thing, but you just talked about it as like a human dilemmas that we go through. Like just a man
Absolutely.
who's being incarcerated wrongly, or a man losing touch with his son. And I think that's what the movie portrayed. Also, it wasn't like, oh, all black people are just poor. We're hopeless and whatnot. No, this is about just anybody. It can be black, white, Asian, whatever,
This is
but they're just kind
humans.
of
Yeah.
lost. Humans being lost in life, and you show that and you portray that in a very, very great way, and I thought it was such an amazing job.
No,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that was something too. Is like, obviously, I've done some other films in the past,
mhm,
but I never did an all black cast film. I never
yeah,
did like a true urban story type of
mhm,
picture, and it was
yeah,
something where I was hesitant at first, but when we came to grips with what story we were going to tell, and it originally derived from a stage play out of San Diego written by Tamara Hill, and it was a story about a boy who grew up without a father and how it was affecting his life course. And that was something where I was like, I know that story. I grew that story resonates with me, so I know how to tell it. Black, white, Asian, or doesn't, or Hispanic. It's still relevant. It's still, it's that yearn and that want for guidance and help and the ability to see something from somebody else's eyes, and I think that's the most important thing you can give to a young man is a sense of understanding of oneself, but also the ability to give them guidance, and even if it's not financial support, you give them emotional support. They know somebody's in their corner, somebody loves them, they care about them, and that will change people's lives greatly. And I've witnessed that in my own life. So it's something where I was able to find the passion in the film, and which translated to help in telling the story.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't cliched at all. And I think that by just taking that human approach, it made it so beautiful, so
Yeah,
beautiful.
no, I'm
Cool.
glad you guys.
Okay, cool. So we have a wild card question, and so I'm the one that usually delegates to asking a wild card question. I think for synergy, one of the most important things is chemistry.
Yeah.
How is you being the director, the captain of the ship, especially amongst the actors, especially between the lead male, lead female, seems the chemistry seems so real and so authentic. How did you? I ain't gonna say create, but how did you help facilitate that chemistry?
So I definitely I believe in the power of rehearsals. I think
Hmm.
rehearsals are important because if you just set up a camera and they don't have a chance to feel out the scene or like laugh through the moments or get the awkward things out of them, then
Hmm.
that will live on screen. So I think rehearsals are important because it allows people to fumble in front of each other, which creates a camaraderie. And I guess I think that's one of the great aspects to finding chemistry between people is making them know that, hey, we're gonna come together and we're gonna figure this out together, and there's no wrong questions, there's no, you're gonna stumble, I'm gonna stumble, we're gonna stumble together, and then there's that chemistry that holds us together.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool. Kenya, are you around, Kenya?
Yes,
I know
I'm right here.
Kenya.
I'm taking
Okay, good.
everything in. I'm telling you, Josh,
Okay,
this right
cool.
here has been awesome. I want to throw it out there, Rich. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. Josh did a great movie about your grandfather and coming over to America. That's a phenomenal. It's really a heart-touching
Yeah.
story. It's a great one. What's
Well,
that?
What?
yeah, well, so it's actually, I mean, it's more so about, it's an incredible escape story. He spent 1 year digging a secret underground tunnel to escape out of a
Wow.
prison camp in Warsaw, Poland during the Holocaust. He saved 17 people in the process, left behind the love of his life in the prison, only to find her again 30 years later and marry her. It was like, it actually, my instinct and my urge to tell that story and make that film was solely based on the story because I thought it was incredible and unbelievable, and the fact that it was like, wow, that's my grandfather, that was crazy to me. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to tell it while they were still alive to solidify it, and in many ways to create it as some sort of bigger motion picture at some point in the future. Maybe 10 years from now, we'll do like a big, we'll take that storyline and we'll do based off of a true story and make a real deal narrative.
That'd be dope.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
that
I'll
you in
definitely
the
check it
movie?
out.
But
yeah.
Josh, was
You'll,
that you in the movie with the mustache?
no, wasn't
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
wondered about that. Well,
yeah,
Josh,
no.
I just want to thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you,
today
guys.
for visiting. Thank you for
Yeah,
Thank you.
visiting with us. Hopefully, we'll have you back again.
yeah, sure.
I know you got more movies coming out. You're doing big
Yeah.
things. Richard's a nice looking guy, so put him in one of your movies,
Oh,
and
you
we're gonna
got
get
it.
this thing rolling.
Hey, where are you based? Where are you based,
I,
Rich?
li- I live in Venice.
Venice, California?
Of course, I'll send you my headshot.
Man, April 6th and 7th, we got you. We'll throw you in on something. I'm doing another project.
Dude, let's do it. Let's do it. Thanks.
Cool.
There
Thank
you
you.
Yeah,
go.
you got it. That's all you got to
Kenya,
do is
Kenya,
ask.
Kenya, Kenya,
It's
you should
easy.
you should work for CAA. You're like my agent now.
Hey, it's all synergy. It's all synergy.
No doubt.
You guys have a fantastic Friday and an awesome weekend, and thank you so much.
You too. Likewise. See you guys.
Thank you guys.
Take care.